how did you go about kind of developing that unique sound that made Stretch stand out from the rest?
We did a long, 18-month tour of Africa, Asia.
Spiritual journey. I was...
I almost bought that.
Ready. I was getting ready.
There was peyote and an Indian shaman, and
Turns out we didn't go anywhere. We just got really messed up in the van in the parking lot. So
Welcome to the ZHZ Podcast, all things music and the DIY artist.
we're your hosts, Zak and Matt, and today we're stoked to welcome Scott Van Wagnen and Dan Nelson from Stretsch Armstronng. These guys helped define the Utah ska scene in the 90s, just played a huge reunion show at Forkfest 2025, and now they're back with a brand new single. Let's get into it. Scott, Dan, welcome to the show, guys. It's good to see you.
what's happening?
How are you?
Thanks for having us.
Fresh off of the big the big reunion show. I've got to say that was a fabulous time. That was pretty insane. So we're glad to have you here. To get it rolling, let's talk about that reunion show, man. Let's get a little bit of backstory on how it happened and why it happened, and we'll go from there.
I was out doing a show for work and got a text from Corey Fox, who owns Velour and who also promoted quite a bit of some big shows that we did when we were active and in our biggest, most popular, I guess you would say. And he basically said, hey, we want to have a reunion show with you guys, and we want to headline Aquabats for Forkfest this year. And are you interested? And Forkfest is normally all local bands, kind of more of a different vibe than I think what us and the Aquabats bring to the table. But I was very interested. Didn't think there was going to be another reunion show, but I definitely didn't think the stars were going to line up, because with 5 of us being out of state and work schedules and all of the things that could keep us from doing a reunion show, I wasn't even sure if everybody would be interested. And I reached out, and within 24 hours, everybody was on board and confirmed, and we were ready to go.
Nope.
So that was back in January, and I think we announced it 3 months later. So we'd known for a couple of months, which is why I think people started to see my social networking change, and all of a sudden a Stretsch Armstronng Instagram pop up, and I'd been ignoring our Facebook page forever. And
So you're the one that usually maintains the pages, the presence, if you will, online?
I've been really bad about it for the last while, but on Instagram, yes, I maintain that solely. And on Facebook, we kind of share the whole
Gotcha.
thing.
Right on. So for those that don't know, that Forkfest, for us anyway, as far as Matt and I and ZHZ Podcast, I had never even heard of it. Apparently it was like the 8th season that they did it. We did a whole recap on our last episode, kind of diving in deep. The Velour, I guess, which was owned by Corey. You said that stage was just phenomenal. It was like being in a whole different dimension, with the Velour stage. But these guys, so a lot of people may have heard of you, heard that you guys were local legends from back in the day. But let's go back to the beginning when you guys kind of first started. And I would assume it's some of you maybe late 80s, but it was kind of the early 90s when things really started to take off, especially in Utah County, in the Provo area, because it was just there was a few bands. You were one of them. Swim Herschel Swim was another one. Then you had Insatiable. I think there were probably My Man Friday. There was a bunch of bands that were kind of popping up about that same time, and it just exploded in popularity. And you guys were the right place at the right time. And how did you guys get started? I mean, we've had Dan on the show before, and that's kind of how we knew that you guys were going to be doing this show. Actually, we knew about the show. I think we knew about the show, but we didn't know about the new song. And we're gonna dive into that. But how did you get into music, Scotty? What sparked you to say, you know what, I want to be a frontman for a ska band?
Whoa. Well, I mean, I love ska since I was in high school, and being somebody who actually was in high school in the 80s, I was around when two-tone music was active. A guy literally handed me the specials cassette in 10th grade and said, "Hey, you seem like the kind of guy that would like this music." And I was already into, Boingo and Devo and some new wave stuff at the time, but I hadn't heard ska or two-tone, and
Right.
it was on at that point. But I mean, I just always been a fan of music and ska and stuff like that. When I moved to Utah in fall of 1990, I was roommates with a guy, Gordon Cobb, who I started Stretch with, who I'd spent the summer with in Arizona, excuse me. And we kind of had a little wannabe band in his bedroom for about 3 months, and we never did a show. But that was kind of like hey, let's start a band, and it was our first interest. Then when we moved to Utah, literally the first week I was in Provo, heard of a gig at what would it have been back then, UVSC. Swim Herschel Swim was playing there, and we went and saw Swim. We're like, holy smokes.
Right. That was my first impression seeing them.
Man, and
Right.
dang, they're a scene, and let's be part of this whole vibe and whatever. Yeah. So, I mean, that was the beginning of it. That's what inspired us to like do another, band, even though I wouldn't even call the first one a band.
Right. And then, when you mentioned Gordon, he actually was up on the stage with the reunion, right? If he was the second guitarist, if you will.
Yeah, we brought Gordy out, throw a little nod to him for being the guy who I actually started the band with, or who had the idea with, and was a part of the original lineup.
Yeah, that was awesome, man.
So what year did you guys actually start playing? So what year did you actually form Stretch originally?
It was literally fall of 90. So like I moved up there whenever school started, September. And we started the band immediately. Like, it was within a couple of weeks.
You had all the members you needed within a couple weeks?
Well, no, we had 3 guitar players.
Yeah, that's how they always guitars are a dime a dozen, man. They're everywhere.
Yeah, we had another bedroom band where we were in Raintree Apartments in Provo. Gordon, Chris Thomas, and Kyle McBride. And Kyle was technically our bass player, but he didn't own a bass.
Oh,
so
I see.
Pick out bass lines on the guitar. And our first few practices were in a bedroom, just with 3 guitar players. And
right
then we found a drummer who had a space that we could practice in as well, and who was Paul Browning, and
yeah,
we were able to have a place to play. And anyway.
So with Old School, right? So that was your first release was on a cassette first time I ever heard you guys was from a cassette called Old School. I still have it, I believe. Was that part of the old members, like the group, or did you move in and out of some members by the time that album came out?
By the time we did that album, Darren was in it, and Dan had been on board and then left to spend some time in Oklahoma. But he'd written a lot of songs on Old School. But as far as the original lineup, none of the original lineup played on Old School. But okay. Darren, bass player Darren, we found him very quickly in the old days. So he was not the original lineup, but one of the original members pretty soon on.
Well, I remember that Dan telling the story how he introduced himself to you, kind of just said, "Hey, I'm a sax player if you're interested." And he said it was not very long after that I got a call, said, "Show up. Let's do this."
It was timing was perfect because we had literally just lost half the band. We were looking for horn players. Was it at the Armory, Dan?
Yeah, I was at the Armory at the Crazy Eight show.
Provo Armory, Crazy Eights, for the old school people who remember them. They had ska vibes. They weren't a ska band, but Dan approached me literally at the right time. Wow. And I said yes right away. Didn't I?
You say Crazy Eights, and immediately Johnny Q. Public starts playing in my head. That one.
That's a vibe. That song was a vibe.
Oh, definitely.
Heck yeah, man. So then we'll go forward just a little bit. So you guys played a lot. You played pretty heavily in the 90s in the scene there. And then I found when I first heard about you guys and swam, I was like you, I was just blown away. I was quite a few years younger, but I was like, that's what I want to do, man. I totally want to be, and I started writing music, and Matt had gone on a mission. So it was just me for a while, and I was writing stuff on a keyboard and a 4-track, and that's kind of where I got my music. There was a couple of friends of mine that would play guitar lines and stuff. But my first performance as band Hooray Who was opening for you guys it was a one-man show. I had a cassette tape, and I just sang to what I had, and that I had
State?
What's that?
That Weber State?
Yeah, it was a Weber State gig. And you guys, I think Lollygag had just come out. You got the boxes in, but it wasn't quite like your CD release party was happening like the next week or something. But you had them ready, and you're like, well, hell, let's just sell them, And so it was kind of like this under the table CD release party thing. And I remember that album came out. I bought it that night. But yeah, that's when I first met you guys. And the first person to come up to me after my set was Dan. And he was asking me about he's all, have you heard of Oingo Boingo? And I said, Danny Elfman's God. He's like, I love this guy, and then we've been friends ever since. But yeah, so I want to say thank you. That was like, and I've been a geeky fan ever since, I'm always in the shadows or whatever, but you guys are just one of the coolest freaking bands around. Fun to watch. Like, there's never a dull moment at any. I even still have one of the posters I have in my studio here is that Halloweener Dog show that we did with. I was in Catfish at the time we did that, but yeah, you guys headlined that show.
Yep. Model Citizen, Catfish, and Us was that was
Correct.
that classic skating.
Yeah,
Yes,
it was a big.
Yeah, it was a classic in Orem.
Oh yeah, classic skating.
I've got the same poster on my wall, man. And it's.
I'm looking at it right now because I still have them up from. I put up all of like the best posters in my office right before the reunion, just so I had, visible. And so when you said that, I just looked right up at it.
Oh, right on, man.
Mine's to my side, but it's
so that we can confirm for a fact that 3 copies of that poster still exist and are still in use.
Okay.
I am just buried with all my other stuff right now.
4.
Four. I bet Dan has more swag there too, buried somewhere. I'm sure. But
those, your shows back in the day, well, not just back in the day, but just a couple of weeks ago, are such a vibe, man. Like the energy at a Stretch show, and ska shows in general, obviously, but particularly with you guys, I recall a couple of shows we played, in the Catfish days with you guys at the Davis County Fairgrounds, and just when you think the energy level of the crowd and of the show is at an apex, Stretch takes the stage, and it just through the roof
levels
man.
Up. Yeah, levels
so
up.
like, and that's something that Stretch is definitely known for is that energy. Can you guys? Are there any shows throughout your playing years that really stick out as just insane, crazy, wild?
It's funny. I would say the Ska Patrick's Day at UVSC with Aquabats, Us, Let's Go Bowling.
Is that 95?
Soda Jerks, Aquabats, Stretch Armstronng, Let's Go Bowling, Skank and Pickle.
Yes.
Was that 1995?
Lollygag was out, so I mean, it could be.
Because I had just gotten back from the mission, and I saw you guys at the Ska Patrick's Day show at UVSC, and that I believe that was the lineup, man. I know Skanka Pickle was there. I know Let's Go Bowling was there, and that was my first time seeing you guys. Man, I was just like,
the place was on fire all night. Every single band.
It was insane.
Yeah, that was nuts. I would say like whenever we would play at Club Omni and the Edge, because we could have a large crowd there and it was the all ages and it was home turf, like those shows were nuts. But yeah,
I think.
Go ahead, Dan.
I think the ones at the Edge, if you're talking about just from an energy and everybody getting sweaty and running around and all that other shit, those shows at the Edge or the whatever the hell it was called back then. Those are probably top of the list.
For you,
those
were your favorites.
I mean, my favorites actually weren't necessarily the bigger shows. Like some of my favorite shows were like playing at the bar and grill with Skank
Bad
and
Manners, Skank and
Played
Pickle.
Bad Manners at the bar and grill.
That would have been just epic.
Yeah. They were in a camper van. They were in like literally like an Econoline camper van touring.
Yeah.
Bad Manners was.
Wow.
Yeah, we had the show with them.
I got Buster sign this like 8x12 or whatever of the band and set it on the roof of my Jetta. And I got in the car, and at some point I rolled my sunroof back, and the photo went back into the roof. And then when I pulled the sunroof back, it stayed back there. So whoever ended up with my Jetta back in the day, there's a picture of Buster.
Nice. That's so cool. Yeah. I think the first time I seen Skink and Pickle, and I had been a fan for years, was, I can't even remember. I almost got in a fight though. It was like, it totally just put a stain on me, and I don't know what came over me. So what happened? Here's the story. There was a mosh pit, right? Of course, because I was like, I don't know. Everybody was moshing, like even at ska shows. I'm like, why? I don't know. But there was this mosh pit, and there's this one guy that was not in the pit. He was on the outer wall behind a few people, and he was with a couple of his buddies, and he thought it would be really funny to push this girl that was up against the wall. So she's on the outside. She's not moshing. She's just kind of standing there. You know how like they all circle around and face each other. So she's out there. Well, this guy pushes her right into the pit, and the guys in the pit don't really see her. They knock her over and plow her down, whatever. And I got such rage inside me seeing that I took this guy and I just pushed him, and I pushed him apparently pretty hard because he fell on his ass and he slid for quite a bit. And then he gets up, and I was just, at that moment, I'm thinking, what did I just do? I'm so screwed, you know?
Zach Spray.
Yeah. It was, you know, and I was just so mad at him, you know, like, why would you do that? And then he puffed up, I puffed up, and then all of a sudden there was like 6 of his high school buddies, you know? And now I'm like, okay, now I'm going to get my ass kicked. And I remember I was with my brother, and all I heard was my brother's voice on the side of my ear saying, you want me to go get the bat out of the car? Oh yeah, go get the bat out of the car. And at that point, you know, Skink and Pickle like started noticing like there's this fight going on, you know, and I was the center of that, you know. So I actually backed off. I left. I actually left the whole, so it cut my night short. But man, I can't believe I remember that. But
troublemaker.
I didn't know, no fights, no punches were thrown. I think I caught him off guard. I don't think he was expecting me to push him, and he was
chivalrous rage, man.
It was. I mean, he's like a foot taller than me. He's like a jock, you know.
Everybody's a foot taller than you, man.
Right? Exactly. That's not hard to do.
Not Scotty.
I think we're about the same height, actually. So, yeah. But yeah.
Right.
You know what? I would be remiss if I didn't add Deviate as another venue that always brought shows.
Yeah, we always played the basement. That was always our jam hang.
It was nuts.
The first time we played with Fishbone at Deviate is like one of like my all-time favorite music moments.
Yeah.
That's like one of those that'll be burned into my memory for the rest of my life.
And I think one of the things about playing at Deviate in a packed house is that how vertical it is. And so when you're on that stage, you've got the crowd in front of you, but the balcony is right there, and it's like you're playing 3 levels. You're just playing in front of a wall.
The 4th one if you went up.
It was just wild, man.
Yeah,
it was wild.
Thunderdome. Age level, man.
Yes, Thunderdome is what I thought. But
there you go.
Well, and I don't feel that way when you're like, I've seen probably several bands play there, you know, and been part of that crowd. But when you're on the stage, like Matt says, you know, you're like, whoa, it's like a whole different kind of angle and view. And I'm like, it was a pretty epic place. The other place I really loved was the Zephyr. I thought that was a really cool venue.
Zephyr was cool. We never did well there, but I always wanted to do well there because it had that kind of balcony vibe, and it was a cool place for shows.
That's funny because so there was this place in Clearfield called Bogies, and for the longest time I wanted our band. This was in Hooray Hoo, but I wanted our band to play there, and I kept trying, and finally we get a gig there. And I called the guy. I said, yeah, no, it sounds good. And I said, all right, well, I'll send you a press kit so you can listen to our stuff. Let me know. And then he just said, yeah, let's book you for this day, whatever. So we show up, and we had a lot of people come to this gig, actually, because we were pretty pumped up about it. We get on stage, we play our set. It was like maybe 45 minutes. Then we're going to take a break. and then come back on. Well, we take a break. All of a sudden, this DJ comes up and just starts playing music and records and stuff. And I was like, I don't recall this being in the itinerary, you know? So I asked the guy, and I don't even think it was the owner. I think it was the owner's, like the manager. And he's like, oh, yeah. So the owner was saying that he wants you guys to play more covers. And I'm like, we're not a cover band. Did he even listen to the music that we sent him? You know, like, did you check out the press kit? He's like, oh, I'll be honest. I didn't pay attention to it. And I'm like, well, we don't do covers. He's like, okay. I said, well, I'll tell you what, you can pay us and we'll just leave. And so they did.
Can't you like play some YMCA or some Ricky Martin or something?
Yeah.
No?
And I was so excited to play there, you know, and it turned out to be such just
well, and it was they had
downer.
booked us to play a Friday and Saturday, and it was just like, and when we killed it, half the crowd left with us, and they were kind of like, oh, shit, you were just here to see them play. And it's like,
oh yeah, I had one of my friends. He's like, I'm gonna piss in this guy's plant. I was like, go ahead, I don't care, do it. I mean, that's anyway. I just had to add that.
I remember one of the first conversations I ever had with specifically with you, Dan, as things, you know, generally happen, was talking Oingo Boingo, and I think that that's something that Scotty, you mentioned earlier in the show about being into Boingo and Devo back in the day, and I think that the influence of Oingo Boingo on so many of us that have played in ska bands or been ska adjacent, can't be understated. But you guys, one of the things with Stretch is that you guys blended so many genres. You guys blend, obviously at your core, it's a ska band, but you've got a lot of punk, a lot of swing, circus music. So how did you go about kind of developing that unique sound that made Stretch stand out from the rest?
We did a long 18-month tour of Africa, Asia.
Spiritual journey. I was
local music.
I almost bought that.
Ready. I was getting ready.
Yeah. That's so funny.
There was peyote and an Indian shaman, and
turns out we didn't go anywhere. We just got really messed up in the van in the parking lot. So.
Yeah. The funny thing is like, so back then, 90s or whatever, there wasn't a huge following for Oingo Boingo. Like, people would be like, they may have heard of them, or they actually did listen to the music but didn't even know that they were called Oingo Boingo, maybe from Weird Science or some other movie. But it just seemed like now everybody knows who Danny Elfman is. Everybody has heard of Oingo Boingo, and it just kind of makes me laugh a little bit, because I'm like,
it only makes you laugh.
Yeah, it only makes me laugh.
All right.
Yeah. So
Elfman at this point's probably made a lot more money out doing off movie scores than he ever made with Oingo.
I think it's probably exponentially more.
I think he made more money off the first two movies than he did as an entire career at Oingo Boingo. Like, I don't blame him for leaving at all,
Well, especially younger people are more surprised that he actually played in a band at some point. Like, they just know, like the film guy.
Yeah, they all thought he was just that's how he started, And even my wife, she's like a huge fan of Nightmare Before Christmas. And when I first started dating her, she had like these figurines, right? Like collectible figure, like they look nice, they're expensive, they light up, it's like this huge village. She bought it, like all of it. And when I first went over to her house, I'm like, she had it all on display, and I'm like, I didn't know you like Danny Elfman. She's like, who? I'm like, Danny Elfman, She's like, who's that? I'm like, wow, you really don't know?
Oh, my sweet summer child.
Yeah. And I'm like, the voice of Jack Skellington? Yeah, no. I'm like, oh.
I mean, that's ground anyone ever again.
Right. Yeah. Well, she's young, so, I get it. But I was like, no, we got to. And so then when, right about that time, I think it was maybe a couple years later, the Danny Oingo Boingo former members started coming and playing at Liquid Joe's once a year or whatever. And I'm like, you got to come check this out. Because I played Dead Man's Party. She didn't know what that was, and other ones that they played on the radio. She didn't know, but like Wild Sex, she knew that one. And like all these random songs. She's like, "Oh, I know this one." I'm like, "Wow!" But so she's a fan now. We've been to like, I don't know, as many as we could go to. I think it was 5 total before they finally said, "All right, we're done playing in Utah." But
what really blows her mind is that Midnight Run is actually Try to Believe.
Right.
Right.
Actually, I was listening to I can't even remember the name of the podcast right now, but Steve Bartek was the guest on the podcast. And he was talking about playing with Oingo Boingo former members in Salt Lake and how every time they go, I guess Johnny Hernandez makes everybody go to the Red Iguana. And he did it like one time, back in like the 80s or something like that. And like, and anytime any member of Oingo Boingo comes through Salt Lake, they always end up going to the Red Iguana. So he was saying like, yeah, anytime we play in Salt Lake, we still do it. We always end up at Red Iguana.
Yeah,
that's funny. Yeah, I have heard that. I heard that story too. But yeah, they're just amazing people. In fact, do you remember what was that movie that was it Nightbreed? Is it called Nightbreed? They made a movie, and in the scene, there's a country version of
Sweat.
Yes, and that's in the movie. And then I later, when they did the Oingo Boingo Alive, they did that country version of it. But yeah, that's when I first heard that. I was like, oh, I know that song.
All right.
Yeah.
What if did a weird version we do with one of our songs once that we swore to God we would never do again because it was terrible? We did something like Drool or something like.
Well, didn't we try to do a lot like a samba or a cha-cha to Drool? It was Latin.
Good, and it didn't go well.
It didn't. Well, he's like, I don't know. It sounded good to me.
Right.
Well, we did an entirely acoustic set, like MTV Unplugged version of a set that because we didn't have an opening act for Hooray Hoo, so we opened for ourselves. So we just did the acoustic version, and then did
You set handles and like pillows and drapery and stuff like that behind it.
It wasn't great.
It was Matt learned like 3 chords on a guitar so that I could play some rhythm guitar on it, and we all had a little bit of percussion, and we had a cellist. We actually had a cellist that would come up on stage and play with us.
Yeah, it was like a very stripped down version.
Do you remember that Unplugged when they had The Cure on there and they were all like sitting on the floor with like the candles and like one of them had a sitar and like all this weird stuff going on?
Uh-huh.
That's the way I wanted Stretch to do a show, but we wouldn't advertise it like that. We would advertise it. And everyone showed up. It would just be us like sitting on the floor of the stage with like acoustic instruments.
Like Ravi Shankar and
that would be cool. What would you do? Is that what you said?
Sit. Would you make me sit?
His knees are just bouncing.
That would be even better, man. Everybody else sitting down, blankets, tapestries, candles, and Scotty's just bouncing around being
diving
Scotty,
over
man.
them.
Yeah, it's just like leapfrogging them,
bags and stuff, and I'm just like, and some levels that I could like dive around.
Yeah.
A couch fort in the corner somewhere. Just
get one of those giant like peacock feathers and just start like messing with the people that just start.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. So speaking of music and you guys, right after the Fork Fest event, the very next day, I believe, right? You guys went in the studio to record a new song. You actually previewed it or showcased it for the first time at Fork Fest called Americant Berserker. And you guys went in the studio to record it. So can you give us a little skinny on that? Do you have an idea when it's coming out?
Yeah, it should be getting mastered around July 17th, July 18th, I think is when the mastering session is going to happen.
Okay.
And once we get it back from that, then we just have to put it on what a DistroKids or whatever it is that puts it on.
Okay, so it's probably going to be more like August then, I'm assuming, right?
Well, I'd say
end of July, I guess, maybe. It's cutting it close, but
yeah, like before August 1st, I want to say because we're shooting before the end of this month.
Yeah.
Well, we
very Boingo vibe to that, Roland.
Well, yeah, we know why.
Well, I told you guys last time. I mean, it was originally supposed to be like the theme song for like this kid zombie movie thing. So it was supposed to be kind of like spastic and all over the place.
Did we talk about that on the show, or was that off?
No, we did.
That was
Yeah,
on.
I think, well, we talked a lot off too, but
Yeah,
yes.
it blurs together what we talked about during the recording and what we talked about once we're rolling.
I know. I wish I could just like hide, like do a mock stop, you know, and then just keep recording. But because that's when all the good stuff comes out, you know, like all the good conversations come out. It's like, oh, we're not recording anymore. Like, oh, let's shake it loose, you know. But
And yeah, the guy that was doing the movie really kind of wanted that Boingo Stretch whatever hybrid that we used to do. So that's how it came about. I was actually like playing that stuff when you're in your 20s is one thing. Playing it when you're in your 50s is a lot harder.
I was impressed by all of you guys.
They actually got it done, so I thought it went well.
Oh yeah, well, and what's funny is like we're in the crowd, and we'd hear like in between songs like, "Wow, these guys are really old." I'm like, and they tear it up, like kids were just blown away. Yeah, exactly, and you know, like I think they were just blown away because they're not used to seeing.
That was the second time Zach got in a fight at a ska show.
Yeah, like I took this little kid. I'm like, listen, punk. No. I'll show you old. No, but it was just funny because they had this look on their face like I didn't know this could exist. You know, like they weren't. I don't think they were used to seeing people our age just like in a high energy, high impact set like that. You know, like that's just the nature of ska. You know,
Unless you were a Stretch fan, and there were a lot of Stretch fans that were at the show, but there were also a lot of people that had never heard us before.
right?
Those people, like from photographers to people that have done reviews on us that were like, I didn't know what to expect. It's always the way they start. Or I was over here changing rolls on my camera. I'd been working so hard and all of a sudden, what? And I grabbed it and started shooting. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
Attention, you know what I mean? So it was, I don't know what they were expecting because, hey, here's a band that was around 30 years ago. That's a long time ago. And yeah, they're going to come back and they're supposed to, you know, co-headline this show or, you know, play the second spot. And then we proved we could.
Yeah, well, I don't think anyone left with any doubt of what you guys are capable of. You know, like us, you know, diehard ska fans, especially Stretch fans from back in the 90s. I mean, we knew you guys always bring it, you know. And in fact, I remember like the one reunion show that I saw was 2012, I think it was, with Swim Herschel Swim. And I was really excited to see that one. I love Swim Herschel Swim. And their performance versus where your guys' performance was like, I mean, you guys nailed it. And I think Swim struggled a little bit, you know, like they're catching their breath a little bit harder than what you guys were doing. And that just goes to show like, that's the kind of energy you guys always bring. I was more worried about like, you know, bringing out the defibrillator or heart attack or something, you know, like we can be on the ready for these guys because one of them drops, you know, but you guys killed it. You guys killed it. And the amount of reciprocation, especially from the youth, you know, that's what impressed me the most. Like they had a bunch of little tiny guys, you know, on the other side of the barrier between the barrier and the stage that were just loving it, dancing. I'm sure they were maybe family. I don't know, but it was a cool sight to see because you had multiple generations, you know, where for me back in the 90s when I first started hanging out and watching you guys play at all these shows, we were all kind of the same age. We're all like teens and 20s, you know, but now, you know, you got grandpa and dad and, you know, son and grandson. And so there's all those generations that they're all mingling into that space all at the same time. It was really cool.
Well, and I imagine that it's got to be super cool because especially, you know, one thing I was thinking about the other day is specifically with you, Scotty, is that like, you know, I've seen, you know, video clips from, you know, the 08 reunion and you've got, you know, little kid, your kids are seeing you play like for the first time, you know, knowing that this is what dad used to do. And then 2012, they're older. Now 2025, your kids are grown. They've got kids. You've got, and it's just, you know, it just had to be just such a moment for you, man. You think you can quantify some of your feelings of taking the stage and having, you know, your kids and your grandkids there shaking their booties to grandpa's music?
Yeah, that's next level. Like, I never thought that was something that was gonna get checked off the list, you know.
Yeah.
It was, I mean, you know, having had my kids in their older years see me play was super, super, super cool. But, you know, I thought that there wasn't going to be another reunion. So I didn't think my son-in-laws, for example, were ever going to get to see me play. And then all of a sudden grandkids came along and I'm like, yeah, these, you know, and then it happened. And it was next level. I mean, I don't even know how to put it into words. You know, you talk about the kids being on the other side of the barricade. Those were my grandkids there. You know, I literally went up to the bouncer ahead of time and I was like, these kids aren't going to have a good view of the stage. Can they just stand right there on the other side of the barricade? And he's like, right here they go. Yeah. So, you know, it was rad. And I mean, and they love the music. They go into like crazy form when they listen to it, as they should.
As everyone else did when we were at that age.
Oh yeah.
Well,
and that,
you know,
the cool thing is that, you know, there's a couple of times where, you know, I'm up there trying to get, you know, footage. I've got my phone on a gimbal recording and I raise it up over my head and kind of get behind me and see the crowd. And just the couple of times I was able to look behind me and see the frenzy of the crowd, man, it was a Stretsch show. It was a Stretsch show, and it was just kicked so much ass, and it was good to see.
Quick intermission, folks. We've curated a Spotify playlist called The Guest List, showcasing the incredible artists who grace our show with their talent and stories. Dive deeper into their music. Plus, discover exclusive tracks by Z Frequency. Click the link in the description or search for The Guest List on Spotify. Enjoy, and back to the show.
How does it feel now to actually be releasing a new song after 30 years?
You want to answer that, Dan? I mean, I have my answer,
Yeah.
but
Well, we'll go with both of you. Start with Dan.
Go ahead, Scott.
All right, we'll start with Scott.
all right, here we go. I will say that one of the things, for those who don't, know the whole equation that led to us kind of disbanding in '97 was the fact that we hadn't been writing new music. And it kind of a stagnant vibe. So think about the fact that we have not, together performed and written something in 30 years. That's a whole, where did that come from? But now, given the original concept of this song is 12 years old, and the new version of the lyrics, were written just out of boredom for me, because it was during COVID, and I was like, wanted to just figure out stuff to do with time. And I was like, I have this minus track of this cool sounding song, and I'm going to lay this down. And then it sat for 5 years. You know what I mean? But
the longest song ever written.
Yeah, like literally. But as a band, when the reunions went around, I was like, hey, do you guys want to roll this Woobegans song? Because that was the original titles, Attack of the Woobegans.
Right.
And they're like, yeah, but we like the new words. And I wasn't expecting that. I was kind of expecting just kind of do a throw, like, hey, let's do a fun song. Nobody's going to care. And then they're like, not only do we like it, but let's record this thing.
Yeah, let's update it.
Yeah.
And
why not? Why would we have
right
put it out there for people to hear?
And we've done that with Hooray Who. We've even done it on the fly. Like, we'll record a song, and then halfway through playing it, many shows, we're like, I just don't like those lyrics, I'm gonna change it, Right. But yeah, no, it's such a cool song. I know Dan was heavily influenced as far as being one of the writing forces of that track, and it definitely shows the Boingo influence, and I love that it still lives. I love that any sort of influence of Boingo lives on anybody. I've got one song with Z Frequency called Thrill Seeker that it was my homage to that whole Boingo vibe, and you guys nailed it. And
nailed it.
When
so So let's kind of like wrap this up with this, because what's next for you guys? Is there a next? Is there like we're gonna just sabbatical until further notice, or you guys have talks of doing anything? Like, what's the buzz inside the watering hole there?
Well, we were talking about doing an arrangement of the entire Lollygag album for the symphony.
Play it at Deer Valley.
That's the logical progression, man.
Right. I would pay to see it.
I mean, it'd be better than going out to Wendover and playing at the Peppermill. But
yeah,
I will say. I mean, I don't know. Dan probably has something to say here, but like something, for lack of a better word, something magical happened this time. Like the 3 months, 6 months leading up to this show, the group texts that we've had, the bonding that we've done, the from the silliness to the collaborating this new song to reminiscing and nostalgia and all that. Like it just felt like weirdly like we were a band again, instead of just like we're getting together for a reunion. Like we felt like a band again. And I joke about this, you know, but I'm pretty serious about it. Like I think with timing came the nostalgia and came that melancholy. You know, none of us are inclined to own a red convertible, and we don't have secretaries to cheat on.
Yeah, you don't have golf clubs in the trunk.
Yeah, we decided to take the path of least resistance with a reunion show and writing a bunch of new songs. And Dan has busted out ideas for, where are we at now, Dan? Nine songs?
Something like that, 7, 9, somewhere like that.
So there is some stuff going on under the hood. So this brings such joy. So here's the thing: like ska's never dead. It never died. It never, once it was there, it's always been there. It's kind of has its waves, comes in and out. They call it first wave, second wave, third wave, two-tone, third. You know. And right now I feel like there's this like lull. Like this is on like the lull, but I feel like it's just waiting for a spark. And I'm curious if maybe this is the kind of spark that might trigger some of these old cats back into the business of that kind of style. It's been that long, you know, that stuff is fresh now.
So
you know,
you had
mean?
first wave, you had third. We got third wave, you got two-tone, and now we're gonna have Centrum Silver.
Yeah, exactly, right? Exactly.
I mean, personally, and this is just like my own personal philosophy on music, though, is I don't necessarily want to like rehash. Like I don't want to,
right?
Like I don't want to necessarily be the same Stretch we were in the '90s.
But you guys are talking new stuff, though, right?
Yeah.
That's different.
So it's still. I mean, it's still. You can, from what we've been able to do so far, it still has that Stretch vibe to it. But it's just kind of like, you know, like Stretch in our 50s. What does Stretch in their 50s sound like?
A little slower. Maybe just a little bit.
Oh, I doubt that.
I will say this last one that we're working on is probably the slowest song that we've written.
Ever?
Heard.
And
we definitely gotta promote this stuff somehow and get a live show going, and somebody else is going to have to promote it, though. I don't want to promote another show ever.
I know. Well, I know the feeling. But you know what? There's some people out there that love doing this. What was that? I can't remember the guy's name. What was his name? He promotes a lot of the ska stuff. Like he promoted. He hit us up about doing some shows. He's with Matamoska. I don't know. I can't remember his name. Royce?
Oh, Royce McDaniels or something. Yeah,
that's him.
I think that I don't know if I can't remember if I've met him or not.
Yeah, and there's other promoters out there. I don't think that would be terribly hard with you guys. You know, I think there's like, even if you hit up Corey West and say, "Hey, is there somebody that could help us?"
Corey Fox.
Oh, that's right. I keep saying Corey West, Corey Fox.
We've got a friend named Corey West, so it's like it kind of sticks.
It's a knee jerk. So Corey Fox, I bet he would know. He would know some people. Not that he would do it himself, but like, hey, these guys could do it. But
I think that I think that's really, really cool and kind of profound that, like, you know, you guys have done reunion shows in the past, and we're getting together, we're tightening up a set so we can play a reunion show. And hearing you guys talk about what happened, with this last reunion and Scotty put it best. It's like, it feels like we're a band again. And I think that is, that's something that when that is in your soul, it never goes away, man. You can't just turn that on and off. And, and it makes me really happy to know that we haven't seen the last of Stretch Armstronng, man, because the scene is better when there's at least the possibility of a Stretch show down the road, man. And
Maybe we'll just do like the Beatles and we'll just be a studio band. Like, don't actually play live, only play live up of rooftops.
You could do that. Totally. Yeah. No, what I'm saying is, you guys, there's no limits, right? Do what you're capable of. Just the fact that, like, like when I had the privilege of coming to you guys and watching you guys do the rehearsal that last night, if I get where Scotty's coming, where it's magical, because like it felt like you guys had, been a band forever, like the inner workings and then the mannerisms and the way you guys coordinate, working out different parts of whatever you wanted to work on and stuff. It was all band. It's like home. I felt so comfortable. Like, Scotty's wife was just amazing. Like she's just made this huge spread of like all this awesome food and coolers. Like, you guys were partying. I felt like the kid who went sneaking through the back door, like, hey, go check this band out, like that's how I felt. I felt privileged. So,
fun, man. It was good to see you. Actually, it'd been a while since I've seen you face to face. So.
I know. I think the last time I seen both of you in the same room was watching Chris Murray play at Oh Shucks or something like that.
Oh wow, that was a long time ago.
Right. Well, and the funny thing is, I didn't know Chris Murray, and I think it was Dan. I was like, oh, you should check him out. He's really cool. I'm like, all right, yeah, cool. So I met you guys out there, and I'm listening to it. I'm listening to Chris go, and I'm like. And I look at Scott. I'm like, these guys remind me of King Apparatus. And that's the laugh I got from Scotty right there. And then Ted's like, that's because it is King Apparatus. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. I remember that. That was Piper Down, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, Piper Down. Now, that's what it was. Piper Down. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember that.
It was a great venue too. It was fun, man. That was such a fun night. I had a blast. So. But anyway, I wanted to say thanks for being on the show. Is there any shout outs you guys want to give? Any friends, family, band members, whatever?
Oh man, I will give shout out to all the friends and family and band members. Also, like, literally, we probably wouldn't be having this talk if it wasn't for Corey Fox. He thought of us, and one of the reasons he thought of us was because he recognizes regularly that we changed the trajectory of his career, and Velour wouldn't exist. I mean, he said the words, Velour wouldn't exist if it wasn't for you guys, which is just like blows me away to think of like the amount of talent that has come out of that place since then. And, it's all him. And so that's a huge, huge shout out, to
absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no. And I apologize, Corey, for completely missing. I won't miss it now. Corey Fox. And the funny thing is one of the coolest venues. I haven't actually been there. I want to go there one of these days, but I've seen images online and stuff of all the different venues across the valley. The Velour is like it is such the coolest place. It's just so damn cool.
The Velour is just mwah.
Like I said, I haven't been there. Maybe one of these days I can get out there and shake hands with Corey Fox for bringing you guys back. And you never know, man. You never know. Like, I remember at your guys' show, there was a little girl. She was probably like in, I don't know, 11, 12, about the same age as my daughter. And she was with her dad. And Darren was throwing picks throughout the night. Throwing picks out into the crowd, and like most of them weren't making it, right? They were just landing in the grass between the barrier and the stage, and it was dark, and there was a guy on my right, and he was finding them. He's reaching down, and he's be able to pick a bunch of them up or have the security guys grab them. So he had a handful of them, and he's like, oh, hey, I got these picks. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And he's like, you want one? Because he had like 4 of them, I'm like, sure, I'll take one. And I put it in my pocket. And then at the end of the night, this girl had come up, and she was talking to one of the security guys because she's seen one of the pics fly down, but she couldn't see it because they're like black and it was dark. He's looking with his phone, with the light on. He's like, I can't find it. I says, you know what, you can have this one. And totally made her day. And so it was just that was the kind of love that set, that night, that whole experience just summed it all up for me. Yeah, without getting too emotional, you guys are kick-ass. So
Thanks, man.
love you guys.
We're
I
big
love
fans.
you guys. Yeah.
Right back at you guys.
Yeah,
So, and as we're wrapping things up, so you guys chose to prioritize family and community over choosing, say, a major label or really, but you were able to build a devoted following, and obviously you've left a lasting legacy that is still being written. So what advice would you have for DIY artists that are coming up through, that are trying to balance ambition with staying true to themselves and their roots?
I would say that one of the things that we were always about was about the music and the performance. We were never led by trends or whatever like that. We literally quit the scene the year that ska became huge. Like it was all about developing a loyal crowd that would, to this day, 30 years later, is still around. There's a lot of bands that don't make it huge. I would never compare ourselves to, like, say, Fishbone, but Fishbone has been around as long as they have because of the loyal underground following that they've had. You know what I mean? And
Boingo.
for that matter as well.
Yeah.
But on a much smaller scale, there's a lot of people that we impacted, that we were their first show, that we were their first ska show.
You're looking at one of them. You're looking at one of them, man. I'm wearing your damn shirt, dude. Look.
Word.
Yeah.
No, that's just so huge to me because, like, for somebody like myself who, didn't even get to go to shows till he was 16 years old, and I hear these kids that were like 12 and 14 years old going, you guys were the first one, and my first show was Thompson Twins.
Mine
what
was,
I mean?
Leonard Skinner.
First show was Stretch Armstronng. That's so freaking cool,
right? And they'll never forget it. They never forget it, right?
And they're passing it on to their kids, and
right.
And that's
even their kids, their first show, they'll never forget it. That's kind of impact you guys leave on people. So, what about you, Dan? You have any parting words for budding musicians, indie artists? Like, what's the big takeaway you could give?
It's probably not a popular one, but I mean, if you're in make a lot of money, you're kind of in the wrong business. I mean, like, I think I've seen get carried away, kind of like, I'm gonna be a millionaire, I'm gonna become a rock star or whatever, and it's like the chances of that happening are not very good. But if you really love it, that's what you should. Focus on your love of doing it. Like, if you happen to end up making money off of it, that's just kind of the cherry on top of the sundae. But for me, the best art just comes from the love of doing it. The love of being the artist and just create something. And that's where I get my kicks from anyway. Like, the money, if it comes, awesome, but don't count on it. Like, do it because you love it and because you want to get better at it.
Right.
Well, and you can tell me, because there is nothing quite like the rush of being on stage doing something you love like that. And that was the energy that I saw from you guys, all of you on stage. It was one of pure joy. And you could tell that not only were you guys having fun and that you guys love doing this, but that the weight of the moment, and I guess appreciating the moment that you were in, was not lost. And it was there, and I could see, you guys soaking it in as you were creating a moment for all of us that were in the crowd. And that was, it was something.
Go ahead. I was just going to say, what impressed me about you guys was how instantly it was like you could tell you guys had played hundreds of shows together. Immediately, the professionalism just slapped right out of the gate. That didn't falter at all. And I guess when I was referring to, like, the last Swim Herschel Swim reunion show, that's where I felt like, they hadn't they hadn't rehearsed the lines as much as like you guys put the effort you guys put into that gig a few weekends ago. It shows the professionalism, it shows the craftsmanship, it shows the passion all in one package, and 45 minutes of like in your face. So
Yeah.
15 condiments in your face.
right. And this is not the sandwich that I ordered.
Where's Darren when you need him?
And well, thanks you guys. Appreciate you taking your time to come on the show with us.
Where can people find you?
Oh, Instagram, Facebook is pretty much it. Stretch Armstronng with the funky spelling, STRETSCH Armstrong with 2 N's.
I'll splash it up on the screen here for people to
and
follow.
and all the streams, anywhere you can stream, pretty much, you can also stream our music.
And that's under the same kind of naming.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Awesome.
Spelling.
Well,
Yep,
I'm looking forward to hearing some new stuff.
Dig it.
All right.
Well, appreciate it, you guys. Thanks a lot, and we will we'll look out for American Berserker. Hopefully, dropping before August 1st. Everywhere you download music.
Correct.
Yes.
And
yes.
and more Stretch coming down the pipe, which is pretty damn thrilling for me to be able to wrap my brain around.
Just keep an eye out. I'll be watching out for it. So,
All
right, man. Well,
right.
love you guys. Thanks for being on. Thanks for being such an inspiration to me and my music career. And like Dan says, if you don't love it, what the hell are you doing it for? And yeah. Because I ask myself that all the time. What the hell am I doing this? Why am I doing this? And I have to, like, what am I doing? But then it always comes down to because you love it. Like my thing is, it always like I'm peeling the layers of onion. And it comes down to the very end. It's like, well, what else are you gonna do? What else are you gonna do?
Yeah.
And that's why I'm still doing it. So.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's just something I just love to do, and I don't really do it for the money. And that's the weird thing.
Yeah, nobody does it for the money anymore.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I like getting paid for it.
Sure.
But I'm just saying, like, if that's the reason you're doing it, then you're in the wrong business.
Right, especially if that's how you think that's going to come out.
Yeah, just concentrate on getting better at what you do and enjoy doing it. And if it works, it works. If not, you still had a good time.
Correct. Until next time, guys, maybe we'll have you back when the album comes out. Or you guys are in town playing a gig, and I can announce
definitely.
that.
I think that at the very least, next time there's a Stretch show, there will be a podcast episode or two dedicated to it. So
yeah, and there'll be an opening band called Z Frequency. Maybe you've heard of them, but I think
probably not.
I think you guys should really have them open for you guys. So.
Send us a demo.
I'll send you a demo. Yeah, are you actually gonna review the press kit though? Like,
there's no Ricky Martin on it, man.
right. So, all right, man. Well, peace out, guys. Love you guys, and
Thanks,
we'll
guys.
catch you soon.
Appreciate you.
All right, man.
That's a wrap for this episode of the legendary band that is Stretch Armstronng here on the ZHZ Podcast. Huge thanks to Scott and Dan for sharing their story.
If you love this episode, make sure to give it a like and hit subscribe so you never miss a beat. We've got more incredible guests and music stories coming your way, so stay tuned and keep supporting all things music and the DIY artist. Catch you on the flip side.